Does a monster roam the remote forest of North America? Some know it as Bigfoot. Others call it Sasquatch. Eyewitnesses describe a creature covered with hair, walking on two legs, towering over 8 feet tall, and sporting massive arms and shoulders. Join us as we examine the evidence, interview the eyewitnesses, and ponder the mystery on Sasquatch Watch Radio. And now, here are your hosts for Sasquatch Watch Radio, Billy Willard and the Creature Seeker.
All right, folks. Welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Watch Radio. Today is April 15th, tax day. Y'all get your taxes done. You know, you gotta pay those taxes. I want to welcome everyone tonight. I'm your host, Billy Willard. And as always, we would like to remind everyone that our show tonight is brought to you by Audible.com. Definitely check out Audible.com. They got some great book titles, over 150,000 different book titles that you can check out. Find your favorite book and listen to someone read it to you for a change. They got some pretty good selections, so definitely check that out. And of course, since they are our sponsor, you do get a special gift if you go through us. So if you go to www.audibletrial.com/Sasquatch Watch Radio, then you will get a 30-day free trial and a free book. So check it out, folks. www.audibletrial.com/Sasquatch Watch Radio. Give yourself the opportunity to check that out. And without further ado, let's get Creature Seeker on the panel. Hey, Creature.
Hey, Billy. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We're getting a little bit of rain up here. Looks like.
Yeah, I know. It's disappointing.
But better than snow.
Well, I wish I could say that, but I just got word about 10 minutes ago that it is snowing and sleeting in Fairfax, Virginia.
Really?
Yes. So I was hoping I'd never see that white stuff again for at least till next season. Next winter.
I know. I've had it. So
it's crazy.
So, Billy, today is the 1-year anniversary of the marathon bombings.
Right.
Marathon bombings. Well, So the latest is so the Boston Marathon is next Monday. But some guy apparently was walking down the street singing Boston Strong, and he left a couple backpacks right in the middle of the street.
No.
So this is the latest. So, they have this guy in custody, and they're wondering what is going on. And they've got the bomb squad down there. They got robots and everything. It's
Are you serious? I have not even heard that. That is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Some
totally
people,
seriously.
man. Unbelievable.
Now, even if this was like a hoax, Billy, this is so
sick.
Sick. It is. It's really perverse. Over 260 people were injured during those explosions last year, and 4 people died.
I know.
So Crystal Campbell, 29 years old, she died during the explosion. This 8-year-old boy, Martin William Richard, he was a casualty of that explosion, and his whole family was affected by it. His sister, who was an Irish dancer, lost one of her legs.
Yep.
His mom suffered brain damage and hearing loss, and that poor family. And then a young woman named Lindsay Liu. She was a Boston University student. She died. And then there was the MIT security officer who was doing nothing but sitting in his car, and those Chechnyan terrorists came up and just shot him while he was sitting in his car. He wasn't even trying to apprehend them or anything. He didn't even know that they were there.
Right.
So very, very, very sad day. I think it's important that we don't forget these people.
Well, that's for sure. And then whoever this person is that dropped the 2 bags, even if the bags do prove to be empty or whatever, and he was doing it for some sick joke, I think that his conviction should, at a minimum, be a good ass whooping.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, Billy, chances are, it probably is some sort of sick joke, but because if he really wanted to bomb people, he would have done it during the marathon. He wouldn't have done it like this early,
Right, right.
But still, it's perverse.
It is.
It is really perverse.
I tell you, there's not a day that goes by that I am shocked by some of the things that people do. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know what the world's coming to, man. We got a lot of sick folks in this world. I mean, really.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, so on a totally different topic, Billy, I just want to let you know that I received word from one of the volunteers that we got a donation, or are going to be getting a donation from one of the listeners of Sasquatch Watch Radio. His name's Craig. I'm sure I'm butchering his name. Craig Benke.
Okay.
And, so he makes these like Bigfoot cutting boards, are in the shape of a foot, a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch foot, and they're cutting boards, and absolutely gorgeous. So he offered to donate a couple of them to the auction.
Wow, great.
Yeah, so we'll post it up on the website and Facebook as soon as we get them. So,
great.
Thanks go out to Craig and all the artists who donated their art to Creature Weekend. We really, really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't checked out the Creature Weekend Facebook page, check it out. I've put up some of the artwork that was donated by Rebecca Sisk, and let me tell you, it's some good artwork. We've got 4 canvas pieces. These are on canvas. They're beautiful pieces, and they will also be available at auction at Creature Weekend. So, Bruce, I wish you and I were eligible to get the auction items, but
I know, Billy,
I get to enjoy them for a little while as I look
Billy,
at them every day.
As an attendee, when I used to attend these conferences, it was great to be able to bid on these items. But now as one of the volunteers, I see these beautiful pieces of art, and they're going for a good cause. By the way, a portion of the proceeds will be donated to Dollars for Scholars. So last year we donated over $1,000 to Dollars for Scholars, the Guernsey County chapter, and $500 went to the elementary schools in Guernsey County that participated in the Bigfoot drawing contest. And so we donated $500 worth of gift certificates to those schools.
Yep.
So
that's great.
It really is a great cause, and in addition to it being fun, Billy, and educational, I'm glad that we can raise money for Dollars for Scholars.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good to give back to the community. We come up there and we spend time up there with folks in that county, which is where Salt Fork is located, and it's nice to be able to give back to the community.
Right.
And it gives you a good feeling inside because you're helping somebody. So
yeah, I have to tell you, one of the most rewarding ththings, Billy, was so you were involved with the Bigfoot drawing contest that we had last year. With those, we had I think 300 submissions, and those 300 were narrowed down from I don't know. There were thousands.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
oh yeah.
We posted them, so we put them all up on the walls down there at Salt Fork, and there's one. The whole hallway was just plastered with these, Bigfoot drawings that these elementary school kids did.
Oh yeah.
And I have to say, I was never that talented when I was that young. I was drawing stick figures, and these kids are just, some of them are really talented. They're all pretty good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they really are.
It was really difficult. It was really challenging to try to pick a winner out of them because
yeah,
it was so good.
I'll tell you what was hilarious was Pat Spain was having a lot of trouble, and he was looking at the artwork, and he's like, man, this, I didn't think he was going to be able to pick one. He's like, man, they're all good,
Well, yeah. So, thanks for bringing that up, Billy. Pat Spain, his now wife Anna, they were judges. Ron Moorhead was one of the judges, and Ron's daughter Rhonda took part in the judging. Scott Nelson took part in the judging, and it was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
It was, and it's going to be fun again this year. There's going to be a lot of fun there, so we definitely don't want anyone to forget that the dates this year are May 16th through the 18th. Get your tickets now. My understanding, I think, Bruce, is that the gold passes are going to be cut off likely here.
Yeah.
In probably just a couple days.
Yeah, I would imagine that they'll probably sell out probably within the next couple of weeks. Last year, the gold passes sold out before the conference, and the conference was earlier last year than it is this year. And we still have another month to go, so I imagine that those will get sold out.
Yeah. All right. Bruce, can you go ahead and do a little bit more advertising? I got to take care of an issue real quick.
No problem.
I will be right back.
Alrighty. So I'll probably, now that we have a couple minutes while we're waiting for our guests to come on, talk about some of the things that are going on Creature Weekend. So Friday night we have the meet and greet, and that's at 6 o'clock. The meet and greet is essentially just, all the folks who have arrived, at the lodge or at the campground. It's just a way for everyone to get together and meet, to connect, network, and just introduce yourselves. And then at 7 o'clock, break for dinner. For those folks who aren't coming to the VIP dinner, they, will go off to the dining room, or they're going to town. The VIP dinner is at 7 o'clock. We'll start seating for that. And that's the event where Bill Munns will be talking about, the title of his presentation is The Science of Hoaxing and Hoax Detection. And Bill Munns, as you recall, is a special effects guy. He spent a large portion of his life working in Hollywood as a special effects guy. He worked on the movie The Swamp Thing with Adrienne Barbeau, and I remember watching that when I was a kid. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So he's going to be talking about, how to detect hoaxes and what are the tools that people are using to hoax, and what are the tools people are using to detect a hoax. And also at that event will be, all the other speakers as well. So not only will Bill Munns be there, but, Dr. Meldrum, John Mayanzinski, Doug Waller will be there, Tim Stover, and it'll be just a fun event. Those people who signed up for that dinner will be getting a free Creature Weekend poster as part of their ticket price. So, it's just a great opportunity for people to get their posters signed by all the speakers. And what usually happens is, when you go to the conference, there's just tons of people there, and then you're waiting in line to get your autographs or whatever. The dinner is just a really more intimate occasion to get to know the speakers, and usually we've got usually what we do is we distribute the speakers. So this year we have probably more tables than we had last year, but we have a speaker set at each table, and that way you get to have dinner with, and you just get to get to know them better and ask them questions you wouldn't be able to ask them in more of a traditional conference format. So after that, there's the bonfire up behind the lodge, and the bonfire, people go out there to just kind of relax and hang out and stare at the fire and cook your s'mores or your marshmallows. The following day, we have vendors setting up at I think 9 o'clock in the morning, and then at 10 o'clock, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society will be giving a presentation. It will be at the lodge, and that presentation will go for probably about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then we'll break for lunch. The lodge will be serving, their signature grilled hamburgers and hot dogs like we did last year. A lot of fun. And then we'll start seating for the conference at about 1 o'clock. Now, people will be able to get there earlier than they did last year. So last year, basically, at 1 or 2 o'clock, people lined up to get their wrist bracelets, but this year we'll be offering them throughout the day. So, you won't have to stand in line, behind like hundreds of other people to get your wrist bracelet. You can just get them. You can just walk up to the registration table and get them at any point during the day before the conference. Also, so the conference will go till, probably about 6:30ish. Then we'll break for dinner. We'll have roughly about a 90-minute dinner, and then we'll resume at about 8 o'clock, and we'll have more speakers, and then we'll have a panel discussion. So the panel discussion, Billy, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but the panel discussion will be an opportunity for people we'll have all the speakers up at the front of the room, and people will be able to ask them questions about their work, about their thoughts on current events in Bigfooting. And then after the conference, we're having the Creature Weekend experience. Now, the Creature Weekend experience is sort of a first for us. I know there have been other groups that have probably tried it before. There's been, a lot of talk about, we've had these concepts before, but really this is a first for Salt Fork and a first for Creature Weekend. And the Creature Weekend experience, basically, without giving everything away, people who sign up for that competition will be taking you to an area. Things are going to happen. We're going to tell you up front. Things are going to happen. And your job to remember what happens. And then when you come out of that area, you'll have to take basically a little exam. And the person who can best recollect and most accurately describe what was heard or seen will win 2 tickets to next year's Creature Weekend conference. And also the bragging rights for saying that you won the competition. Now, when I was in Butler, I know that a lot of guys from Pennsylvania were really spiking up to win that competition. So the competition is going to be stiff. Also, you'll be required to bring a digital camera. If you think you're going to use your phone, your smartphone, to digital picture of whatever you see out there, it's probably not going to work out too well for you. So I'm just going to give you a little hint. Bring a digital camera, a decent digital camera, one with a good flash, because it's going to be dark. You're back, Billy?
Yep, I'm back.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I was going to, and then last but not least, on Sunday at noon, in the morning, Billy will be going over sort of the, what would you call it, Billy? You'll be going over the answers to the competition?
Yes. Yeah, we'll pretty much be going over the questionnaires that were filled out by the participants, so that we can see who come closest to getting the answers. And of course, we will be given several different awards, certificates of achievement and that kind of thing. Because everybody's a winner. So we want to make sure everybody has fun.
And then at noon, or sometime, we may start early, but what's his name? Dr. Meldrum eluded me for a minute there. Dr. Meldrum will be leading a evidence collection class based off of his Sasquatch field guide. And so he had asked for us to keep that group kind of small. And let me just say that I tried to keep it as small as I could, Billy.
I know.
But there were just so many people who wanted to be a part of that event.
Yeah.
So we'll have some nice certificates and everything for people who participated in that event. And it's also a barbecue event. So we'll be grilling burgers and stuff like that. So hot dogs. So hopefully the weather will cooperate. And in past years, we've had an absolutely wonderful time with events like that.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. Real quick, I just was reminded of something. I see that we have Petey Weistro is in the chat room. Petey, if you don't mind, could you please put that website for you in the chat room? Folks, just so everyone knows, Sasquatch Watch Radio has we're trying to help Petey. Petey's actually going through some really rough times right now. He's on the verge of being homeless. And we are trying to raise some money to help him get back on his feet. So if you're listening, Petey, I don't have it with me. Please put that link up on the chat room. And then, of course, once I see it, I'll announce it. But I know it was kind of long, so it'd probably be better to go into the chat, and then maybe I can announce it also for those that might need to. That's not in the chat room. So we'll try to help Petey out, going through some rough times. Okay, Bruce. We've got our guest hanging on the line. He's been hanging there patiently for 20 minutes. So, did we cover all the announcements?
I think so, Billy.
Okay. Because this is going to be an extremely interesting interview with this fella. I've talked to him at some length by phone. I've heard the story. I've listened. As far as I know, he has recounted the story on one other place. Which I listened to, and I can tell you, you're going to enjoy it, and you definitely want to pay attention. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Steve to the show.
How you gentlemen tonight?
Hey,
doing just fine.
Well, I'll tell you, I did get the snow here in Southwest Virginia. It come down pretty good here today.
Well, you keep it down there. I don't want to see it here. So. I don't want no parts of that. So, Steve, we're going to get right into your story, but kind of give everybody a background of who you are. Are you a Bigfoot researcher, or are you just a plain Joe?
I'm just a plain Joe. I grew up in Southwest Virginia, right on the border between West Virginia and Virginia. And grew up in a hunting family. My grandfather was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. Done a lot of trapping, fishing. We done substance. We ate everything we caught and trapped. Sold furs. Just an ordinary Joe. Just never believed in Bigfoot. Never saw any proof of Bigfoot. Growing up in the Appalachian Mountains, never saw anything that would make make you believe that there was something like that out there.
Right. Yeah, so what happened to you caught you by complete surprise?
Well, what caught me by complete surprise was it was the day before Thanksgiving in 2003, and I was going to go out and do some scouting. I had this was right when trail cameras were starting to come pretty popular, and I had quite a few of them set out, and I had took pictures of a nice buck with a drop tine on it, and was really interested in hunting him down and killing him, and all I do is bow hunt. I don't gun hunt at all, and just for deer I just bow hunt. Now I have killed plenty of bear with gun and plenty of bear with bow, but had this picture of this nice deer on the camera, and on the other side of the ridge from where I hunted, the buddy of mine, he actually had the same deer on camera, and we had kind of a little competition going to see who would kill the biggest buck every year, because we hunted, adjacent properties and stuff, and I actually showed him a picture of the deer, and he said, "I've got that deer on camera too," and I was like, "No, there's no way you got that deer on camera. There's a 40-foot sheer cliff, and a mile in both directions at the top of the mountain. The deer can't pass that. He can't climb that cliff." And he's like, "I'm telling you, I've got the deer on camera too." So he shows me a picture, and sure enough, it's the same buck.
Yeah.
So I really was intrigued, and I wanted to find where the deer had found a passage in the mountain. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if I set up on that passage, I'd have a better shot of killing him.
Right.
So the day before Thanksgiving, it was a nice, cool, crisp. It had snowed 4 or 5 inches the night before, and took my rifle with me, and I was just going to walk the cliff until I found the cut in the cliff where he was getting through, and take the four-wheeler up the mountain and get off the four-wheeler. And I don't get very far from the four-wheeler, 15 or 20 feet, and I happen to see a footprint in the snow, plain as day, right in the snow, right beside the four-wheeler trail. And the four-wheeler trail really wasn't a four-wheeler trail. It was a logging trail where the mountain, had been logged, back in the early 1900s. Mm-hmm. And saw this footprint, and I was just bumfuzzled. It was a nice, clear footprint. And I didn't know what to think. I was like, what in the hell is this? And, I grew up in the woods. I've killed everything there is in these mountains at some point in my life. And I could not explain what I was seeing. And I tried for 10 or 15 minutes to explain what had made this footprint. Was it... At first I thought maybe it was an owl that had flew down and maybe had caught a mouse or a rabbit in the snow, and it just, the way its wings landed, it made it look like a footprint. I was trying everything under the sun to explain it away from being what I was actually seeing.
Right. So
I sat there for 10 or 15 minutes, and I finally just blew it off. I'm like, hell with it. It's one footprint, no big deal. I can't explain something that you just can't explain in the woods. One of them things.
Yeah.
So I get up and start walking, and I walk maybe 2 or 3 strides, and I see another footprint on the bank on the other side of the four-wheeler trail. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, wait a second now. We gotta back up. So I look back up the mountain, and at the distance of the stride, and I started seeing the footprints, in the snow. And I went back to the original footprint and looked down the mountain at the distance that the strides were, and I could continue to see footprints.
Right.
So then I kind of got pissed. I really did. I was angry because I've hunted this property for almost 20 years, had never had anyone walk up on me in the woods or had to run anyone off the property, anything. And I want to know what, this is the middle of hunting season. This is the day before Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. What the hell is someone doing on my property? Hunting.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. So I'm like, I'm gonna follow these tracks. I'm gonna run this guy down, and
right.
And you know, I was in my early 20s, and I was in real good shape, real good shape then. And I'll run this cat down, you know, find out what he's doing in the woods here. And I especially want to know what he's doing in the woods barefooted. You know, what I mean, it's freezing. It probably was 12 to 15 degrees that day. It was, you know, cold as hell. So I get at a pretty good pace, you know, after the footprints. And, you know, I would probably go 60 or 70 yards, and I'm starting to realize, I'm like, damn, this guy has got the awful longest damn stride that I've ever seen. You know, he's taking three strides to my one, you know, or to three of my strides to his one stride. I'm like, this is just, it's not possible.
Right.
So I keep on after it, and, you know, I stop a couple of times because I was humping it pretty good after him.
Yeah.
You know, and I had my rifle with me. I didn't have the bow with me. I took my rifle with me because I wasn't hunting. I just took my rifle in the woods because there's a lot of black bear here.
Right.
So I get, you know, up in the woods. I'm probably maybe 150 yards away from the four-wheeler, something like that. And at the base of the tracks are moving up the mountain toward the cliff. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, you know, maybe this guy knows where that gap is in the mountain, you know, in the cliff. That's where he's headed. So at the base of the cliff is all laurel thicket. The whole base of the cliff is nothing but laurels. The whole distance of it.
Right.
And I'm getting up close to the laurel thickets, and I can see the track. You know, it's a beautiful day, just pristine, nice and clear, and I can see the footprints leading into a big laurel thicket. So I'm like, okay, you know, what in the world's the guy doing crawling in a laurel thicket now? You know, he's barefooted, now he's crawling in a laurel thicket. You know, maybe the guy's trying to get away from me. You know, maybe he knows I'm after him. So I'm easing up to a laurel thicket, and I get probably within 30 yards, 25 yards, something like that, a laurel thicket, and I can see something in the laurel thicket, black. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'll be damned if that ain't a bear. Because I can see something, and it's big. Yeah. But all I can see is its ass end of it is to me. And I'm like, that's a damn bear, you know. And I have a bear tag. And I'm realizing that's a big bear. You know, that's a bear worth shooting. So I'm, you know, getting a little bit close, and you know, I'm realizing I'm too damn close. Right. You know, and I'm waiting for the bear to run. Really, you know, at any minute now, because 99% of the bear that I've ever crossed in the woods, they're going to run from you. They don't stick around to see what you're doing. They run from you. They make a point to run from you. Right. And this thing hadn't moved any, you know. I could tell that it was, you know, moving its upper body some, you know, but it wasn't making a whole lot of movement. So I'm sneaking up on it, and, you know, and I'm getting ready. I'm like, I'm just going to shoot it, you know, which I thought was right behind the shoulder. You know, I didn't have a real good shot on it, but as close as I was with the rifle I was using, you know, I'd shot plenty of bear with it before. He was going to have a bad day. Right. And so I pulled a gun up, and you know, and I'm trying to get it in the sights there good, and I hear the damnedest mess down the hill to the left of me, and it sounds like a bear climbing a tree. I mean, something's just tearing this tree up, and it startles me, and I think that I'm going to see a cub climbing a tree, is what as in my mind, I'm going to see a cub running up a tree. And I look to my left, and then that's when it started. Yeah. I see a Bigfoot 15 feet in the tree staring dead at me. And if your jaw can hit the ground, my jaw hit the ground. Mm-hmm. You know, I was as dumbfounded could get at seeing it. You know, I was just like, That's not possible.
Right.
What I'm looking at is not possible. You know, I didn't believe in anything like that. And your heart just stops. You know, and for lack of a better word, it just stops. And damn it scared me. You know, it scared me pretty good.
Does it still bother you, Steve? I mean, to think about it.
Oh yeah, it annoys me pretty bad. It's not so much the one that I saw in the tree, which wasn't that big. It was probably maybe 5.5 foot tall at the best, maybe.
Right.
Probably. It looked to be probably. It looked probably around 400 to 500 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark, but it probably wasn't that heavy. It was just real hairy black hair, thick black hair all over the body. And I'm just dumbfounded, and then I hear this grunt from the laurel thicket, and I look to the laurel thicket, and standing in the laurel thicket where I thought was a bear is a monster. With a lack of a better word, he's a monster.
Right.
And my knees were shaking. Everything was shaking on me.
Right.
You know, you get this feeling that's just indescribable. It's between fear, the heat that just rushes over your body. I mean, it just was the scariest thing I ever saw. I'm just without, I don't know any other ways to explain it. It was just the scariest thing I ever saw. Was about he was a good 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
From the weight, because he was up the mountain from me, and he was just towering above me.
Yeah.
And just monstrous. The bulk on this one made the one in the tree look like a cub. I mean, it was just it almost looked like two different animals. It was so much bigger.
Are you? So you're absolutely sure?
Oh yeah,
that it
yeah.
was a male?
At that time, I did not know it was a he. Okay. And at the time, I didn't know the one in the tree was a she. But I did, the one in the tree, I'm pretty sure was a she. It looked to have breast.
Okay.
It was so hairy that you couldn't see a nipple or it just looked like it had a pronounced chest on it. Okay. But the male, he was a male.
Right.
Okay, there was no other way around that. He was a male. But I was just petrified, and I'm trying to back up. I'm wanting to get the hell out of there. I'm wanting to run, but I'm afraid to run. I don't what to do. And the big one is he's just standing there looking at me, and I actually forgot about the one in the tree.
Yeah.
When the big one stands up, because in my mind he's closer to me, and he is a far more physical specimen than the one in the tree.
Right.
And he's just staring at me. Just a point blank stare. Well, I'm shaking, and I'm wanting to run, and I'm probably getting ready to run. And the one in the tree just grunts, and it was a different kind of a grunt. It was almost like you could feel the grunt.
All right.
It was like the grunt hit you. It wasn't like the grunts before. It was this grunt felt like it actually hit your body. And when it grunted at me, natural instinct for me was I just threw the gun up, straight in the sights, and I pulled the trigger. There was no hesitation. There wasn't no, what am I doing? I mean, straight crosshairs was on the chest, and I dropped the hammer quick.
Yep.
And this thing, I don't know if it fell out of the tree or but it came out of the tree one way or the other.
Yeah. What'd you say, Bruce?
Oh, I was wondering what caliber rifle?
It's a .243, and I was using 90 grain ballistic tip shells, and a .243 is not a very high powered rifle. There's a lot bigger rifles out there, but when you use a 90 grain ballistic tip, it puts a hole in a deer. You can put your fist in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does a lot of damage, and it's a good flat shooting gun. So I shot the one in the tree, and when I did, I just at the same time that I shot it, I knew I hit it.
Right.
You can see I could see the dust, the impact, and the dust kind of come off the coat of the animal, and then I just I turned to run.
Right.
I don't give a damn what it is at this point. I'm just wanting to get out of here. I'm wanting to run. So I turned to run, and as I'm turning, I'm trying to inject another shell because I think I'm going to have to shoot the big one.
Right.
I'm thinking that I'm just going to, as soon as I get this shell in, I'm just going to go ahead and shoot this one in the lower thicket too, and just wherever the chips fall after that, is where it's at.
Right.
That's how scared I was.
Yeah.
So I turned and, I probably ran maybe 10 or 15 feet, and by then I'd done put another shell in. And I turned around to look to find the big one, and the big one is not in the lower bush anymore. Mm-hmm. The big one he had either picked the other one up that had fell down on the ground, or the other one had kind of worked together and jumped on its back, and the other one helped it up. I didn't quite see all that happen, but the other one was on the big one's back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm ready to, I'm going to shoot again, is what,
right,
is in my mind. I'm going to shoot again. And and I'm just turned to run again, a little bit further, because I'm still too close.
Yeah.
And this thing is moving away from me. It's not coming toward me. And I'm still I'm running, but I'm glancing back every couple of steps, And one of the glances back, this thing has already made it up to the cliff face. And then I turn and look, and I actually stop. And this thing goes up a sheer cliff, Billy, that at points of it is past vertical,
Mm-hmm.
It goes up this sheer cliff like magic. I don't know a way to explain it. It climbs this cliff in a 50 foot cliff. It climbs in 2 seconds, maybe.
Wow.
It may have been, no more than 3 seconds. It's up this cliff fast. I mean,
with
no effort, with this one on its back.
Right.
And tops the cliff. And when I saw it up the cliff, I turned, and that's when I really started to run.
Yeah.
And ran to the 4-wheeler, and I was actually, got to the 4-wheeler, and I was still scared. I didn't know. I never put the gun down, the entire time. Jumped on the 4-wheeler and hauled ass off the mountain.
Right.
I mean, flew off the mountain.
Now, what did you do? Once you, I assume you went back home.
Yes.
What happened after that? I mean, what? I guess, did you have to like think about what had happened, or?
Well, I get on park the 4-wheeler in the garage. And I sat there for a couple of seconds on the 4-wheeler, not, just trying to catch my breath, because it was, I rode the bike pretty hard coming off the mountain there, and, you kind of get an arm pump from riding as fast as I was. So I actually get off the 4-wheeler, and I was going to grab a 5-gallon bucket and sit on it, and before I could grab the bucket, I just vomited. Just threw up right then.
Yeah.
So I had some water, and I rinsed my mouth out and sat on the bucket for. It ended up being probably more like an hour that I sat on the bucket. Just could not, fathom what had just happened. I was just trying to think that what in the hell just had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm replaying it and replaying it and replaying it, and thinking to myself, what in the hell did I just shoot?
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What the hell was that? And I was dumbfounded. I couldn't, I couldn't think straight. You're searching for answers and there's no answers. You're just at a loss.
Right.
So finally, I got up off the bucket and went in the house and took a shower and started to watch some TV, but I was still thinking about it. I was just in a daze. And my wife finally said, Steve, what's wrong with you? Since you've come in, you didn't spend much time in the woods, because I'm usually go in the woods in the morning, 30 minutes before daylight, and it's an hour after dark before I come back. You didn't stay long in the woods. What's wrong? And I'm like, you ain't gonna believe what I'm, about to tell you. She's like, well, what is it? And then I tell her what happened, and she's like, are you sure? And she really didn't believe me at first.
Right.
And she could tell that I was upset about it. And she's like, well, you ought to call a game warden, because what if it was a bear that you did shoot? And I'm like, I'm telling you, I didn't shoot no damn bear. You know how many bears I've shot in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't shoot a damn bear. I know what a bear is. That was not a bear. She's like, well, I still think you ought to call a game warden. So I'm like, well, you're right. I probably ought to call a game warden. So I call a game warden's office, tell them that, needs an officer to come out, that I may have shot a bear.
Right.
Well, this is the day before Thanksgiving. Right. Didn't think that a game warden would show up Thanksgiving Day, but that's what happens. A game warden shows up Thanksgiving Day at my house, wanting to know what had happened. So I tell him everything. Well, he gets out a notepad, and he's, taking down some notes. And when I tell him that I think that I shot a Bigfoot, I don't think I shot a bear, he just rips his notepad up, takes the paper, just wads it up, and is like, buddy, I don't have time for this shit. It's Thanksgiving. I would like to be home with my family, and you're telling me you shot a damn Bigfoot? And he's making fun of me.
Right.
I'm like, buddy, I don't know what else to tell you, but this is what happened, And I just thought that someone needed to know.
Right.
And I thought the only person that needed to know was the DNR. Someone in the DNR needed to know.
Right.
What had happened. So I thought he was just going to leave,
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's like, well, can we go to where it's happened? I'm like, yeah, You can get on the four-wheeler, and I'll take you up there.
Right.
So we get on the four-wheeler, and I take him to exactly where I had stopped when I saw the first footprint.
Right.
So we get off the four-wheeler, and I'm starting to walk toward where the shooting was. Well, he don't walk to where the shooting was. He walks completely the other direction to where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, where are you going? He's like, I want to see where these tracks came from. Because he thinks that I'm joking him.
Mm-hmm.
You know. I'm like, well, okay, whatever. So we start down the mountain. You know,
Right.
And we get out of the freeze line into some mud. And we're following the tracks down the mountain further than I did to when I had the encounter. We probably go 300 yards down the mountain. And we run into, we get out of the freeze line and we get into some mud. And that's when he changed his attitude, was when we saw the prints in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
When those prints were in the mud, you could see. I don't know that they are dermal ridges or, but damned if they didn't look like real feet then.
Right. Right.
In the snow you could just tell that they were footprints.
Right.
Looked like a footprint. But in the mud, as a whole different footprint. Completely different looking. And that's when he changed his whole attitude.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, let's go back up the mountain. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, I don't have a gun. I kind of would like to have my weapon with me. He's like, you don't need a weapon. I've got a weapon. I'm like, sir, if we run across what I ran across, that little 9mm you're carrying on your hip, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
He's like, don't worry about it. We'll be okay. So I'm like, okay. So we go back up the mountain. We go to hiking, and it takes us probably 20 minutes to hike back up.
Mm-hmm.
So we get up there to where I'd shot the animal, and the Bigfoot, and because when I told him the story that there was two, we never found the entire time one set of tracks.
Mm-hmm.
We never found a second set of tracks.
Okay.
The entire time. I have no idea where the one in the tree which direction it had came from, but it wasn't close to the one that went in the laurel thicket.
Right.
When I was behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was just further out the mountain and the big one was walking back toward it. I don't know, but we only found one set of tracks.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking maybe it actually was carrying it or it was riding on its back.
It may, the game warden and I, because we both asked that question. There were some questions that I asked him, and that we both kind of come to a few conclusions on. And the game warden's conclusion was that the other one was moving through the trees.
Mm-hmm. That
it never hit the ground.
Right.
There was spots where there was a lot of bark that you could tell it had fell out of the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's what it was, that one, the smaller one, was moving through the trees. It never was getting on the ground. It was just jumping from tree to tree.
Right.
So we get back up to the site where I shot it, and I'm not wanting to get directly where it had happened.
Right.
I'm looking at the cliff. I'm looking all around.
Right.
Because here, we're less than 24 hours when it happened. This thing could be right here.
Right.
And my sense is on high alert.
Yeah.
So we get over to he walks over to the laurel thicket, and there's footprints everywhere, you know, and you could tell like there was drag marks where something had been drugged, you know, and there was a lot of blood in the snow. That's when I first saw the blood. And he gets in his he has this little thing around his waist that's got he's got a pair of surgical gloves. Mm-hmm. Pulls the surgical gloves out, and he has like a Ziploc baggie. He takes it wasn't a chunk of meat, but it had some tissue to it.
Yeah.
And he picks that up, turns the baggie inside out, uses his hand and picks it up and zips it up and puts it back in his pouch, and he has a disposable camera. Starts taking pictures, you know, and he's like, well, where did it climb up the cliff at? So I'm like, well, hell, follow the tracks, you know. It's not hard to figure out where he went, you know. There's blood spatter everywhere. You know, there was a lot of blood under the tree, but if you've ever seen an animal's lung shot, there's like a spray.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a spray in the snow of blood, and we just walked up to the cliff right there, and there actually was about 2 or 3 fingers of blood that you could make out somewhat of a handprint.
Right.
On the first about 8 foot off the ground on the rocks, and then up again you could see a little bit, but you couldn't tell that it was a hand. You could just see a blood stain.
Yeah.
And he had some cotton swabs, and he cotton swabbed it and put that in another baggie and took all kind of pictures, you know. And we were there for a good bit of an hour, probably in the woods, you know, just there at the shoot site.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, is that all you need? You know, we need to get out of here. I'm not at all comfortable with us staying here this long.
Right.
And he's like, I got everything I need. Let's go. So I'm leaving his ass behind. You know, I'm hustling pretty quick back to the 4-wheeler. He's taking his sweet time. You know, I'm hustling. You know, so I get back to the 4-wheeler, and he wait on him a minute, and he jumps on. We get back to the house, and he gets in his truck, and he's getting ready to leave, and I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? What's the outcome here? What's, you know? He said, I don't know what to tell you. So he said, I have no idea what to tell you. You know, I believe that you shot what you think you shot. You know, if you think it was a Bigfoot, I believe you. You know, there's footprints there. You know, there looks to be a handprint on the rock. You know, who am I now to tell you that the evidence looks like you're telling the truth?
Right.
And I'm like, well, you're damn right I'm telling the truth. I know I didn't shoot a damn bear.
Right.
You know? And he's like, well, there might be someone that contacts you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, who's going to contact me? He said, I don't know who it is, but someone may contact you about this. I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. And I didn't think, because, he was just basically blowing me off.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I go back in the house and end up eating a nice Thanksgiving dinner and, you know, basically, you know, trying to forget about it.
Right.
You know. Well, it ended up being 8 to 9 days later, something like that. 2 guys show up at my shop and want to speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was close to quitting time, about 30 minutes before quitting time. And I'm like, listen, you know, you guys give us 30 more minutes. You know, our shift's over in 30 minutes. You know, I'll be glad to talk to you. And they're like, well, how about we just we'll wait for you and then we'll follow you to your home. You know, I don't live very far from my shop.
Right.
I'm like, okay. So work's done, and they follow me to the house, and they want me to tell the whole story over.
Right.
Well, they're in a government-tagged, silver, grayish minivan.
Mm-hmm.
So we go up to the house, and we're standing outside, and it was, not freezing cold, but it was a decent day. And they want me to tell this whole story again. Well, one of the guys you could tell he was definitely a government employee.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was real clean cut, had a nice suit and tie on, real well spoken. You could tell he probably had a college education, Well, the other guy was a brute of a fella. He was probably 6'6", 6'7", big man, but real burly, fella. Long hair, had a scruffy beard, didn't look like he was shaved, did not look like a government employee would look,
right?
Or
right.
would dress. So I tell him the whole thing and everything, and this was when the big one says, "So you believe?" Now this was after I, tell him everything. After a game one, I tell him everything, and I'm done.
Right.
And he says, "So you believe you shot a Sasquatch?" And the entire time, I'd never said the word Sasquatch. I'd been calling him a Bigfoot.
Right.
And I said, "Well, yeah, I believe I did shoot a Sasquatch." And he says, "No, you didn't." And I kind of was taken back. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did, and I believe the game warden feels the same way."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "You don't understand me. You didn't shoot a Sasquatch." Well, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
That he's saying that. And I'm like, bullshit. I know what I shot. And he says, "You're not understanding me. You did not shoot a Sasquatch. Do you understand me?" Well, then I realized what he's telling me then. I kind of hard-headed, I guess.
Right.
That he's basically threatened me, telling me to, keep my mouth shut about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, hey, that's not right. I just flat tell him, I said, it's not right. There's people need to know, that this, and at the time, I had never got on the internet and looked at that whether or not people had ever shot them before, or that there was any people on radio talking about them, or people writing reports. I didn't know that there was a BFRO. I didn't know anything like that. I mean, I wasn't not aware of a Bigfoot community, that people went out and actively looked for these things. I had no idea that this was like that. So I'm like, well, who am I going to tell? That it's not like I'm going to have a parade downtown and say I shot a Sasquatch. Not knowing who all that I could tell.
Right.
And he was just like, well, you need to keep your mouth shut about this, because if you don't, there's things that can happen to you. And I was really getting angry then, He's like, you could have IRS problems. You could have problems with your business with OSHA, with the EPA. There's all kind of problems that can come about because of this. We've got control of all that. And by then I was pissed. I was fit to be tied. And I told him, I said, boy, I just think it's time y'all, if there's nothing else y'all need enough from me, right there, hit the road. Ain't nothing else I got to say to you.
Right.
Well, as they're leaving, the big one turns around and looks at me and says, and he puts his finger over his mouth, like to shut up, like a shoot signal.
Right.
And I just, waved him off, go on.
Right.
So, my wife says, what was that all about? And I said, well, it's just they don't want nothing said about it, and I really don't want to talk about it. Who's going to believe me anyway? I said, you didn't believe me at first. I said, it wasn't like I don't have proof. The damn thing got away. Who's going to believe me anyway?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, you know that you shot it. You know what you saw. And I'm like, yeah, but, there's no proof. The game warden's got the proof. She's like, well, why don't you go back up there and there's got to be more blood, right? I'm like, yeah, there probably is. So I was going to wait until the next day, and I was going to go up there, and I was going to try to get some collection of try to find hair or blood or whatever, something.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is when it got completely batshit crazy, off the wall crazy.
Yeah.
That night, we hear helicopters all flying up and down the valley, all night long. I mean, just nonstop from dark to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up the next morning, and I'm gonna go before for work. I'm gonna go ahead and go up there and, as fast as I can, see if I can get some blood or some hair and get the hell off the mountain.
Right.
Well, I take my four-wheeler plumb past where I had parked. I'm trying to get as close as I can. Well, I get probably within 100 yards. Well, there is no tracks left. There's nothing left up there. The snow looked like it got shoveled off the mountain. It's all gone. Nothing there. I'm like, what the hell happened? I mean, it looked like a herd of elk run through there. I mean, it was just like someone had took a broom and had swept all the snow away. It was all gone. So I just get my shit and I head off the mountain. And I'm like, that's crazy. I tell my wife, she's like, well, what do you think someone was up there with, with the helicopters and stuff? I said, I don't know, but it was not the same site that we left with the game warden. I can tell you that. And we both agreed that we probably just ought to leave it be, that we don't need to talk about it. And I did for 10 years. I kept my mouth shut. Didn't say nothing. The only person I told was my father.
Right.
Didn't say shit. So finally, it just started irritating me to death that I'd kept this inside, So I started, about a year ago, I started getting on the internet, and I started realizing, that's when I started to see that there was a BFRO, that there was places that you could report this to, that there was people that you can talk to that's had sightings, and I started seeing shows on the History Channel, and stuff, people having sightings and all this stuff, and I'm like, well, there is people that you can tell this to. And my wife's like, well, you got to find someone you can. So that's when I found the gentleman that I told the story to the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And with Crypto Crew.
Right.
So I tell the story to him the first time, or so it probably was maybe a day later, something like that. Mm-hmm. I get a phone call on my phone, and it's gentleman doesn't. It's a private block number on my phone, and says, tells me, calls me by my name, and I said, yeah. He said, you were told not to speak of this, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, what are you talking about? Talk about what? He said, you know what you spoke about to Tom Markham with Crypto Crew. And then it dawned on me that I gave my report to him. Mm-hmm. He said, we told you to keep your mouth shut. And I'm like, hey, I waited 10 years. I didn't say nothing. I said, I'm telling you, I don't care what you think y'all can do to me now, but if y'all want to get it on, we can get it on. I'm not hiding from y'all. Y'all ain't going to scare me or threaten me into not talking. There's places that you can tell your story to and people you can talk to get this stuff off your chest. I don't care whether y'all people believe me or not. I know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
you know. And he's like, well, bad things can happen to people like that, and hung up the phone.
Oh, God.
And then that's where I'm at today. So I started, doing a lot of research. That's when I, started really, really looking at the whole government cover-ups, trying to find out other people, asking, going around. I do a lot of trout fishing.
Mm-hmm.
See a lot of game wardens. And would talk to game wardens, ask them if they have seen, I didn't come out and flat ask them, have you seen, have you got any reports of Bigfoot?
Mm-hmm.
I would just ask them, have you had any reports of anything strange? And, most of them will look at you like you're stupid, But I've had a few that said, yeah, there's some strange things that happen in these woods.
Mm-hmm.
And had one game warden that told me about an incident that had happened in an adjacent county of one that had, and he flat said it was a Bigfoot that had broke into a woman's chicken coop and had took 15 or 20 chickens, hens out of a chicken coop, and the woman ran into it face to face as it was coming out of the chicken coop. And he had that, and then we'll talk to just talk to other people and try to find other reports in the area. But then I would have strange things happen to my computer. I'd get bugs on my computer would melt down. I mean, completely go blank.
Yeah.
Would fry the computer. My passwords would get changed without me changing my passwords. Couldn't get on the computer. You could tell my phones were tapped. You would hear be talking on the phone and hear clicks on the phone. You could hear people. Times you could hear people talk on the phone while you all was talking to other people. And I know it's the government watching and listening to everything that I was saying and trying to see what I was doing on the computer and who I was going to try to talk to next.
I tell you what,
none
of this surprises me, honestly. I know one of the reasons you had called me because you had heard Mark, the fellow we had on from Florida, that was talking about some of this, something similar. What does your wife think about all this? I mean, has she experienced the issues with the computer and stuff like that? What does she think?
Well, she was actually the first one that had the incident with the computer. And what she was the one that really brought it to my attention. She had she gets on. She's she likes the computer like all women do now. They get on that Facebook crap and all that stuff. But they spend half their life on Facebook now. They don't know how to talk to anyone other than a computer. But she had some pictures come up of my wife on the computer that no one had took. And when she saw them, we figured out that it was taken from the front of her laptop. It was her on the computer.
Uh-huh.
And they had showed up on a dirty website.
Wow.
And one of her girlfriends had told her about it.
Right.
And that's how she found out about it. And then, she was like, where did these pictures come from? And then, we realized they were taken while she was physically on the computer.
Right.
And I'm like, well, how does someone take a picture? How do you take a picture of yourself? And she's like, well, someone had to hack in the computer and take the picture. Make the computer take the picture, and which I don't understand all that. I'm not a computer person.
Oh, you can do it. You can actually do that, Steve. It's people can access your computer remotely, and that's the reason why some of this has been in the news lately about how a lot of people will put, tape stickers and stuff over top of their cameras because people can actually do remote viewing.
But I meant to tell you too that when the two guys from the government came, I actually I wouldn't talk to them until they told me what agency they were with, because at first they wouldn't say nothing.
Right.
I kept asking them and they wouldn't say nothing, and then finally the real short fellow, that clean-cut fellow, said that he was with the Department of Interior. Mm-hmm. And I asked for a business card from both of them. Wouldn't give me a card. Flat refused to give me a card.
Probably don't have a card.
Yeah, they don't have no damn card.
Yeah.
I really started researching the government stuff, the issue with the government, and I just found a lot of things that throw up red flags. There was. Have you read the books by Dave Pilates, Missing 411?
Yes, yeah. I do have the one that he did on the East Coast. I do have it.
Is that not unbelievable?
Oh yeah, yep. Oh yeah, it's some pretty interesting stories in there.
I mean, I could not believe the things that I found. Once I finally started to really dive into it and actually start spending some time trying to find information, about what I was going through, and then about the government cover-ups that they and they just flat. The way it looks to me, if anyone brings out has a body, you're going to pay hell to get it to the media.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have some kind of exposure plan in place.
Yeah.
Of getting it, because if the government finds out that you have that body and you're not prepared, you're going to lose that body. I think they're going to go, through any means necessary to keep this from coming out.
Right. Now you've had several years to think about all this now, Steve. Now, looking back, what do you think you would have done differently, knowing what you know now?
Knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have done anything different.
Okay.
Because I truly believe that I was in a bad situation. I don't think that these animals are your friend. I don't think that they want to, have a Jane Goodall moment with you. Okay, I don't think they want to sit down and play patty cake. They are a dangerous animal, and if you're get caught in the wrong situation, I think that you may not end up walking out of there alive.
Right.
From the size of the big one, the small one wouldn't have had a problem hurting me. But the big one, the one thing that I remember most about the big one was the size of his hands. I mean, mm-hmm. he was the whole body was massive, but his hands it looked like when I first done the report with Tom Markham, I said that his hands looked as big as a major league outfielder's baseball glove, and that's how big they look. That's how big they are.
I had a Marine tell me one time that had a sighting, said that their hands were as big as dinner plates.
Yep. Not this thing could palm a beach ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like LeBron James palms a basketball.
Yeah.
Just a massive creature. After you calm down and you get rid of the fear, leaves you. I understand why people want to. They are an unbelievable specimen. I guess if some people may want to think that they're a beautiful creature. I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there that think that, and that's fine. That they're entitled to that. But they are truly a freak of nature specimen. Their proportions are, they're not, I mean, it's just not natural. You're looking at it, it's not natural. You're looking at something that you've never seen before. You have nothing to compare it to. A bear, I've killed 6 500-pound black bear.
Mm-hmm.
That big one would have slapped a 500-pound black bear around, like he was playing with a kitten. I mean, the thing was, it's beyond. I don't have the words in my vocabulary to describe how awesome of an animal that he was.
Now, I asked you what you would have done different to the animal. Now I'm going to ask you, what would you have done different when you decided to report it? If you had
that would have completely changed. I would have never contacted the DNR or the Game Warden's office. Would have never done that. I would have probably got my father and a couple of friends, well armed, and went back to the site and retrieved evidence myself. And I may have tried to track it.
Mm-hmm.
There was still at the time. The next day there was a lot of snow on the ground. Even though it carried that one up the cliff, at some point they've got to rest. And if you're on the back side of the ridge where my buddy's property is, it's not near as steep as the side of the mountain that I hunt.
All right.
And he has a lot more four-wheeler trails. So, we could have probably, got within a pretty close distance of these animals, and maybe tried to get another sighting, or see if the one that I shot died.
Right.
I mean, I truly believe the one that I shot didn't live. I don't see how it could have lived. I mean, it was a center mass at probably right at 40 yards, 35 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Not any further than that. Center mass shot to the chest with a ballistic tip round.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I can pretty much guarantee that the shot had a complete pass through on the animal with the amount of blood that there was. It had to have a pass through, and
right.
And I'm pretty sure it was a lung shot.
Right.
And probably got a good artery, and I don't see how that animal could have any way that it could have lived.
Right.
Not knowing how many animals that I've killed in my hunting since I was 5 or 6 years old, when my grandfather showed me everything about the woods. And that's another thing that I kind of want to share with people. My grandfather, it was every weekend we were in the woods. We didn't have Xbox, PlayStation. We didn't have none of that stuff. You got lucky on Saturday if you could watch about an hour worth of cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, you were outside.
Right.
And we would trap for furs. We would fish, and we ate everything. My grandmother fished. If we went trout fishing, you brought your fish back and you ate all your fish. That you had fish that night. We would catch crawdads in the creek and eat crawdads, and you didn't waste anything that you killed in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just because my grandfather, he wasn't raised that way. You respected nature. If you took from nature, you made sure it was to your nourishment.
Right. Bruce, do you have any questions for Steve?
I have a bunch, actually.
I know.
So, one question is, if you felt that these creatures were dangerous, why do you think, and not that you would know how Bigfoot thinks, but why do you think that the larger male didn't run you down and try to get you for shooting at the smaller one?
I have no idea. I was expecting it. You know, I had reloaded. I thought I truly was going to, my next shot was going to be the big one. And I had started to run and glanced back, just enough to rechamber around and turned, and he was no longer in the lower bush. He had done stepped out from behind that, and the other one was on his back. I could have shot him right then.
So you said you were chambering around. So you turned around, you chambered around. So am I to assume that your 243 is bolt action?
Bolt action, yeah.
And how many cartridges in the magazine?
5.
So you turn around, you ejected a shell, you chambered another one, and you're ready to go. You're ready to fire a second shot.
I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. I'm going to have to shoot again.
Okay. So when you turned around, you didn't actually see the Bigfoot that you shot fall to the ground.
No, I didn't. I didn't see it. It either fell or kind of caught itself falling out of the tree, but it came out of the tree.
So it didn't fall out of the tree. You're saying it jumped out of the tree.
No, I don't know that it jumped out of the tree.
Okay.
When I shot it, it looked to be, when I took my eye out of the scope, it was coming down the tree, either falling or climbing down the tree. And I'm turning to run, engaging another shell, thinking that I'm going to shoot again, and turn and look, and then that's when the big one and the other one are engaged. And I don't know if it had climbed on the other one's back or if the big one. It looked the way that when I saw him, that the big one had helped it on its back, just the position of the bodies, the way they were standing.
So you never actually saw it reach the ground. When you saw it, the next time you saw it after you shot it, the large Bigfoot had it on its back.
It was pretty much on its back, yes.
Okay.
I mean, in all theory, I guess it could have jumped off the tree onto the other one's back.
Was there any?
I'm pretty sure that it fell to the ground.
When you came back with the Ranger, right, and you took those samples, and then in the plastic bag, did you see a spot in the snow or anything where it might have fallen?
Well, that's what it looked like. It had been, that it actually had been drug away from the tree. That's why I assumed that it had fell out of the tree. When we got there, it looked like there was a drag mark in the snow.
Okay.
And just so everyone knows, the live broadcast is getting ready to go off, but we're going to continue a little bit in the archive. So if you want to hear the rest of the interview, you can log in and listen to it in the archive. But we want to thank everybody for being on the show tonight before we go off live. So just wanted to put that out there. Before we take off here, I want to grab this caller that's been holding on for about 20 minutes. Caller from the 540 area code, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hi. I haven't called for a while, and this is Mary. I'm down in Spotsylvania.
Yeah, Mary.
And hello, everybody.
Hello, Mary.
I had a comment to make about the government thing.
Okay.
It seems that it's so sinister that, everyone or more people like Melba, in her reveal.
Mm-hmm.
I think the government has something to do with trying to, throw out all kinds of, I guess, red herrings or whatever to discredit.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. With the studies, the studying that I'm doing, that I've found, is the stuff like Melba Ketchum, and then some of the stuff that is put on TV, like the mountain monster stuff, the Finding Bigfoot, the $10 million Bigfoot bounty.
Yes.
I believe all of that stuff is just a ruse to downplay the actual Bigfoot existence, to cause people to discredit it, to laugh at it, to think it's a farce, to make it's just a way for them to get people to make fun of it, to non-believe, to make everyone joke at you and discredit it.
Exactly.
I agree with you 100%.
Right. And my comment about, I'm not in your shoes. I'm very, anti-kill, but I respect your position. That when he retrieved the female, I think his first desire was to, keep that body from getting, used. And, I'm sure he has feelings for whoever.
If that is his mate, or it could have possibly been a sibling, but I agree with you that it was a mate. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
That was the case.
So to me, they're not really. I love all animals, but I think they're a little bit more sentient than they are more sentient than what we call, game or animals.
Right.
They have they communicate with one another, and given them the chance, I think they would like to communicate with us. I am on that fringe side, but I think there is something to this revealing, that in this 21st century, we're finally the truth is finally coming out. And good on you. I really respect, what you're doing. You're a very brave man in this thing, because the government is too sinister.
I agree with you 100%.
And who would have thought that of the two, communism could be the lesser of two evils. I mean, it makes me really sad to say that, but that we've allowed this government to take over our lives. It's really, I think we're at a critical juncture here.
I agree with you 100%. I'm glad that someone come on and said that, because I'm a patriot. I've always believed in America. I was raised that way, that you believe in America and you don't talk down about America. But
well, it's not
right
the
now
people
in
are
America,
the good people. It's the government that
that's
I'm
right.
really disgusted with. The black, the shadow government or whatever it is. That's.
Well, it goes way deeper than
where the
anything
trillions
with,
are going
with Bigfoot.
To.
That's what a lot of people don't understand. This with our government, it goes way deeper than the subject of Bigfoot. There are quite a few other subjects that are probably way more classified than Bigfoot, that are out there that they are, truly trying to keep from the world, not just from the American public, from the world, You know, this happens in other countries.
They're an octopus. It's an octopus, and it's not only our country. It's just it's a conglomeration of global attacks on people. So anyway, that's all I meant to say. Thank you for allowing me to get on a soapbox, but I really enjoyed the show.
Thanks a lot, Mary.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
But I truly agree with Mary. That's something that we all are going to have to fight in the very near future, is putting our government back in its place.
Yeah, well, we almost saw that happen in Nevada, didn't we?
It looks that way, don't it?
You can only push the people so far, right?
But back to the Bigfoot subject.
Yeah.
How many types of Bigfoot do you all believe that there are out there?
I'll be honest with you. My honest opinion, Steve, is that I am completely uncertain that I can even answer that question. People like yourself who have had an actual sighting have probably a whole lot more input on that than someone like myself who has never had what I would consider an actual sighting. So I feel that I can't really answer that question.
Well, I can only truly say that I know of one, type of Bigfoot,
Mm-hmm.
But listening and, researching the other eyewitnesses that are out there, I truly believe that there are probably three. That there is, I truly believe there's one that has a dog face,
mm-hmm.
has some kind of a snout on it, and that there is one that is probably a little less hairy, or that is maybe a little bit smaller. That is probably down in Florida and in the southern Georgia area.
Mm-hmm.
A warmer climate. Louisiana type animal.
Right.
But what do y'all think too of the Bigfoot North project with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Todd Standing, and Lee Strauss?
Well, I don't know. Bruce, do you have an opinion on that yet?
I don't. I'd actually have to see, what comes of it. So I just don't want to make any pronouncements about it when I don't really know that much about it.
Well, have either one of you saw the two photographs that Todd Standing has produced as being a Bigfoot?
Yes, I have.
What do you think of that?
My personal opinion of that is that it's not authentic.
I agree 100%. That's not, well, it is nothing of what I saw. Looks nothing like what I saw.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. Especially the lighter colored one that doesn't have any hair on its face at all.
Right.
I mean, that to me, that looks completely like a hoax.
Yeah.
That's fake.
My wife says it looks like some kind of deranged teddy bear.
Yeah. But the one that is real dark, that has more hair on its face.
Yeah.
Now it does have a little bit of resemblance to what I saw.
Right.
But still, not what I saw.
Right.
And the one that I saw, because I saw its face very well.
Mm-hmm.
I had a clear look at its face. And it had a nose. It was somewhat flat, but it wasn't like gorilla flat.
Right.
Its nostrils weren't turned up, kind of like a gorilla's is. Their nostrils were more pointing, was down on the bottom half of its nose.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I thought was kind of different from the ones that I've seen is the gap between the bottom of the nose and the upper lip
Mm-hmm.
was longer than I've seen in most pictures of the one that I saw.
Okay.
There was more distance between the bottom of the nose and the top lip, and the lips were not fat, or they didn't look like a human's lips really.
Right.
They weren't. It wasn't like a set of lips you could put lipstick on.
Right.
Okay, you could barely see the pink of the lip that was there, and I never saw any teeth. It didn't show its teeth or anything like that, and I never saw any whites of the eye. All I saw was black.
Yeah.
In its eyes. I never saw any whites.
Right.
I'm not saying it didn't have whites of its eyes.
Right.
It was just it had such a pronounced brow that it wasn't really that easy to see in its eyes. Its eyes just looked dark.
What about the shape of the top of the head?
It was hairy as hell. He had hair all over him. The only place he didn't have a lot of hair was actually in between his legs in his groin area and underneath his arms was not. I could see the skin underneath his armpits there. And he had a tannish color. Looked like someone that would have a good suntan.
Right.
Skin color.
Right.
But the shape of the head was, I guess it had a little bit of a cone shape to it, but not. It was just so damn big.
Yeah.
I mean, you get awestruck in the size.
Right.
There was no damn neck. I can tell you that. There was no neck on this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like it's just the muscle from its shoulders. He was so wide in his shoulders that I could have laid across his shoulders, and I'm almost 6 foot tall, and could have laid completely across his shoulders, and easy. He was that wide.
I tell you, well, I can kind of start to understand why you called it a monster. I mean, that's obviously a very large creature. Bruce, you got anything else?
Just a few questions. So, the creatures that you saw, you said they're very hairy. So, aside from the armpits and the groin area, so the face had a lot of hair on it. There weren't any. You couldn't see any skin on the face.
No, well, you could see there was it had like a beard. Now the one in the tree wasn't as hairy in the face, but it was further away from me, But it wasn't near as hairy in the face. You could see skin around its eyes and its nose and stuff. But but the big one now, he had like a mustache. He had hair under his nose, but that distance was long. It just looked funny that the distance from underneath his nose to the top of his lip was as wide as it was. But he had hair on his forehead down to his brow ridge, and then hair. It didn't come like up underneath his eyes, but it looked like a man with a beard, with that doesn't shave.
Right.
And what would you estimate your distance from where you were to the creature that was in the tree?
I was probably 40. I was no further than 40 yards. I probably was a little closer than that.
Looks like 120 feet.
Yeah. Right at probably 100 feet. Yep.
Okay. And you were in a very heavily wooded area.
It's pretty. But now there's no leaves on it. It's wintertime. There's snow on the ground. There's no leaves on the trees at all. It's crystal clear day. And I got a good look at it.
And you had a scope on your rifle.
Uh-huh.
And what power scope was that?
It's the
What, 9x50? I don't know. I'd have to look at the.
So it's like a 9-power scope.
Yeah, it's a 9-power scope. Yeah, it's.
Okay.
And I've got it set up to shoot. The 243 is a real flat gun. I've got a bull barrel on it. So I've got it set up to shoot 200 yards. So I had it pulled in quite a bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say 9 power is pretty high powered for a 243. I mean, even snipers, they use 10 power scopes.
Well, this used to be the fellow I bought the gun off of. He used it to, they would target shoot with it.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you typically have a scope on your rifle when you hunt deer in the woods?
Yeah. I don't kill any deer with a rifle. I hunt all the deer with a bow. The only animals I kill with a rifle anymore is bear.
Okay. And when you went back with the Ranger on Thanksgiving, were you armed?
I was not armed, no. He was, and I was upset that I wasn't. I was wanting to get a weapon, and he flat refused. You're not carrying a weapon. He flat told me I'm the only one that's going to have a weapon in the woods. Because at the time, he's still thinking that I'm lying. That this whole thing's a big joke. He's not believing nothing. We haven't made it to the site or nothing.
Interesting.
Now, have you had any other issues or run-ins with any government?
I have not, no. And I've been back to as far as seeing any Bigfoot, or more run-ins with the government?
With the government.
No, I haven't had, since the phone call, I have not had any, physical or verbal altercations with them.
Okay.
I'm sure that they are monitoring my computer. I'm sure they're monitoring my phone, my cell phone. I'm sure that that's going on.
Well, one thing's for sure, we didn't shut down as far as I know tonight.
Well, Billy, I got at roughly at about 10:30. I got kicked out of the Blog Talk.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I got booted, and I ended up at the Sasquatch Watch Radio homepage.
That's interesting. So,
yeah, kind of weird.
Well, we'll have to find out. If our archive show disappears, then maybe we're on to something here.
Yeah.
But I tell you, it's a very interesting recollection, Steve. I don't know. So how many? Do you continue to go back to that area?
I didn't for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't. I made the real quick visit because I thought I could find something. I was really hoping I could find some hair. I didn't know what I was going to do with blood. I didn't even think about. At the time, I wasn't thinking DNA.
Right.
I didn't have no idea what DNA was. I didn't know you could do that.
Have you had any sightings or anything like that since?
The only thing that we have had that I can probably say that it had something to do with a Bigfoot was that we heard some grunts that in the woods not far from where this happened. Me and another hunter turkey hunting, and when we heard them, I left.
Yeah. So it sounds like that possibly these things still frequent your area.
I look when I'm in the woods, I'm on a different kind of alert in the woods now. I used to go in the woods like that. When I go hunting, I would go in the woods without a flashlight. That's I was not at all worried about being in the woods at dark.
Right.
Growing up with your grandfather that's a Cherokee Indian, we camped out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
in the summertime, I mean, it was every weekend, all weekend long, from Thursday to Monday. We spent more time in the woods than we did at the house.
Right.
And I was not at all afraid of the woods or anything in the woods.
Right.
And I would go, when I hunt, I'd leave 30 minutes, 40 minutes before dark and, walk in the woods or ride my four-wheeler to the point where, that I was going to leave my four-wheeler and hike in without a flashlight.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew the woods so well. And then I would sit in the if I was hunting a tree stand, I'd sit in a tree stand until 30 minutes after dark. I love the woods. I love
right.
hearing the animals in the woods at dark and after dark, and never had an issue. Love
right.
the woods. But I don't spend that much time in the woods no more. When it comes to I don't go in. If I'm going in before daylight, I've got a flashlight.
Right.
And I usually come out at dusk.
Right. Now, have you ever taken someone you trust that may be a Bigfoot researcher to that area?
No.
You have not?
No.
Have you personally went to that area and looked for evidence? I know you've done quite a bit of research online and stuff. Have you went to look for things that they call quote unquote evidence? In
the general vicinity, yes. I've went there like during ginseng season.
Mm-hmm.
Spending a lot of time in the woods, hunting ginseng. I would look.
And what kind of rifle do you use for that, Steve?
When I ginseng hunt, I carry a pistol.
I was kidding.
Yeah, but there is never a time in the woods that I do not go armed.
Right.
Yeah.
My grandfather, even growing up, I was 6 years old. I had a .22 single shot at 6 years old that I carried with me. He made me carry. You're carrying it. This is your gun.
Right.
And I was taught at a young age gun safety. Hunter aware. Make sure what you're shooting. I was taught everything that there was to know about hunting.
Right.
And being in the woods. Spending time in the woods, making your own tents. Surviving in the woods if you didn't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
How to trap rabbits and ground squirrels and stuff without string. Make cages out of twigs. All that stuff.
Now, do you still own this property, Steve?
Yes.
Are you willing to take Billy Willard and the Creature Seeker to this area, Steve?
Well, if y'all are willing to come look at it, you're welcome to it.
What do you think, Bruce?
I'm in.
I'm in. I'd love to come check out the area. So I'm trying to remember if I have. Oh.
Just whenever you're in this area, just ring me up. I'll show you exactly where to go.
I will do that. This is your. I'm not going to say your number, but that's probably the number I'm looking at on this caller ID.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think I've got it back at my office, too, because when you called me, I was at my office.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure I still have all that information. But, well, Steve, I want to personally thank you for coming on the show and telling the story. I know at times it seemed like it probably bothers you to bring it all back up and kind of think about it. Probably kind of brings it home, but
there was a short time where it was bothering me a little bit, but after it's been better than 10 years now, I just
yeah. Well,
thanks for sharing your story, Steve.
Yeah, it was
very
exciting.
Very interesting.
Now, I hope that people that have incidents that happen, if they're faced with the same thing I was faced with, that they're able to do the right thing and tell their story and don't worry about what anyone tells them about, keeping their mouth shut or whatever. Get your story out there. If you've got evidence, get it out there.
and help everyone, prove the existence that these animals are truly live and, flesh, air-breathing, animals.
Right.
Creatures, whatever you want to call them. They're monsters,
Right.
whatever you want to name them. They are definitely in the woods.
I think that point was brought across pretty well. Well, Steve, thank you so much for being on the show. Bruce and I will be in touch with you. We will take you up on that offer, and we will definitely want to come out and have a look at all that area there.
Yep. Well, welcome to it, gentlemen.
All right, Steve, thanks a lot, and we appreciate your time and taking time away probably from your wife, actually.
That's all right.
Thanks, Steve.
Y'all gentlemen have a
Thanks
good evening.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Bruce, it was a pretty interesting show tonight.
It was, and I think this probably is one of the longest shows we've had.
I think so. It was darn near 2 hours, so I hope Allison's happy.
I hope she is happy. She probably won't be, Billy, but I hope she is.
Well, she probably won't, since you were sitting there trying to accuse her of bad cooking.
Well, Billy, that fried chicken she had at the expedition at one time, that took out a couple of researchers.
Well, she didn't make that, though, remember?
Well, she claimed she didn't make it, but I'm sure that if it was better received, she probably would have claimed she made it.
All right. Well, anyway, we want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, will be a Topic Tuesday show. And Bruce and I have our homework assignment here for the next week is to figure out what Topic Tuesday is going to be about. So be watching the website and the Facebook page for Sasquatch Watch Radio. And over the weekend, I will be putting up that topic so that everybody knows what we're going to be talking about Tuesday at 9 p.m. next week. Bruce, do you have anything? I'm trying to think. Is there anything we need to add? Because we're getting ready to go off of archive, too.
Yeah, not that I can recall, Billy.
Okay, I think we're good. But everybody keep the dates in mind. May 16th through the 18th, Creature Weekend. You don't want to miss it. Go to creatureweekend.com. Get your tickets now before they're sold out. And until next Tuesday night, 9 p.m., everybody have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Sasquatch Watch Radio. We appreciate every one of our listeners. We hope you enjoyed our program. Don't forget to tune in again next week for another fun and informative program. Please visit our website at www.sasquatchwatchradio.com and leave us a comment about the show. We want to hear from you. Until next time, keep on looking for the big guy.